Okay, so that wasn't a completely bad episode, but I don't think it was a completely good episode either. Why? Well, just because of, not the best decision making by everybody in the game, plus, I'm starting to get a little anxious about the finale. You can probably guess why, but I'll tell you all in more detail. So, uh, first, we got Natalie trying to sell the idea that she simply was confused on who to vote for in that split vote, and while there is a possibility of that happening, given how there was so few people in the game, and just, yeah, it's just, at the same time, it really is hard to screw something like that up, Yeah. I mean, like, it was interesting to see that John bought it, but as this episode revealed, and it was hinted at last week, he is a little too trusting, even though he said that's what he wasn't going to do. Yeah. So that reward challenge, I was totally impressed that the blue team was able to come from behind and win that, because you would have figured with Natalie, Missy, banging her head and something like that, just that would have been enough to beat them, but turns out the puzzle fooled the girls enough that John, Keith, and Missy were able to come from behind and take care of it. John giving up the reward, well, he's got a point, saying that he's just not that into that kind of stuff, and this is a case of another reward being offered on Survivor, then I'm like, you know what, I don't know if I'd really want to participate on this, because I keep imagining myself on the show if I was ever to get that far, and I honestly think that at that point, if I hadn't really won the reward, I'd be, you know what, I'd rather just go without it. Yeah, although I was anxious to see if the giving up the reward thing would bite him, and it did. Yeah. Uh, Giving it to Baylor, just whatever. Although it was interesting that he was able to spend time alone with Jacqueline, even though he wanted to go to exile. I don't totally get the why Natalie would go to exile, because she knows she has Koi Opa's idol, and John has the exile idol, so there isn't one there. Just like there really isn't any merit for it. Nothing to discuss until the immunity challenge, and then we get to see Missy's injury. And, like, I think it does kind of make sense that the doctor does want, is willing to allow her to stay into the game, especially since it doesn't look like it's life-threatening. But at the same time, if you have an injury like that, it, gets rid of a lot of your credibility, because, well, based on Missy's injury, it looks like that she isn't going to really be able to participate in really any of the challenges here on out, unless it just magically happens to get better. And if it's worse the day after it happens to you, it's going to be just as bad the day after, I'd reckon. So, yeah. Oh, wait a minute. They're only on day 35. Yeah, what's up with that? Why didn't you have this tribal on day 36 like you usually do? What, are we doing final two? They could be, but I'm having a tough time seeing that. Because I don't see how they can get free vote outs in one episode, unless they do like two votes at one tribal, like they did in like One World. I mean, not One World, South Pacific, Redemption Island, and Cook Islands. But I don't know. That's an interesting thing to think about. So, yeah, that immunity challenge. Where did that come from? I did want John to win, but Natalie winning, I wasn't too bothered by that, because I thought there was still the possibility John could play his idol. Then at camp, it becomes obvious that it's either John or Keith going, and that Missy did want to stick to her agreement with John and not go with Baylor, who actually wanted John gone. And this was just an interesting point where I was able to kind of do a retrospective on Missy and Baylor, look at them, and I go, kind of on the both of you because here's the interesting thing. Technically, Missy did better at forming relations, with everyone in the game, whereas Baylor was doing better, although not that much better, about playing an individual game. So it's not like one of them is necessarily worse than the other, but it's just not ultimately that impressive, and they were never totally thought as a twosome, even though they always voted together somehow in this game. Sheesh. And in comparison them to a Sierra and a Laura, I don't know if I'd necessarily call Baylor as the coach for Missy, it's just tough. And it's not because either of them has played before, but just... Going into Tribal, I thought it was more likely that John was going to be blindsided, although he almost had enough signs to play his idol, he just decided not to. And then he gets voted out with the idol in his pocket, although he's actually pretty calm about it, and I'm sure he was able to kind of guess why they did it. So even though it was a blind side, it didn't really feel like as great of a blind side, because so many similar blind sides with the exact same situation happening, like, one giving up a reward, or just trying to be trusting in an alliance with a plan involved, and just he goes, yeah. So this isn't like Kagayan, where we had spectacular blindside after spectacular blindside. Here we have average blindside so much that it no longer feels average. It feels meh. And plus, at this point, we've seen so many people voted out with idols in their pockets that it's no longer a badge of shame. It's just, oh yeah, you're just a member of the club. Now, whatever. I mean, do you see many people complaining about Andrea being dumb for being voted out with an idol in her pocket, To use one example, obviously, not playing favorites. Okay. So, tying back to what I said at the beginning of the video, it wasn't a completely bad episode. My hand's bothering me again, but... yeah, just, now I'm unsure about the people that are left, given the fact that John, one of the better people left in the game in terms of gameplay, is gone, because we had an interesting battle going on between Natalie and John here the past couple of episodes, along with everyone on the rejects, for lack of a better term, alliance, staying in the game, but... looking at the people that are left and the overall progress of the season, yeah, not entirely sure that we're going to get a nice winner on our hands, especially if Natalie is booted. Now, I'm not trying to say that Natalie has played an amazing game, it's just that compared to the people that are left, she has played a pretty nice game, although if we were to slot her in, say, any of the 4 seasons that took place in Philippines, she'd kind of look more average, honestly. And half the reason we say this is because her sister was the first one booted, and yet she's made it to the finale. And if I get anyone who says that she hasn't made it to the finale, finale means last episode, not last part of the show. Why do so many people have a tough time with this? Do the words season finale not mean anything to you? It's amazing how many times I have to correct people on this. Whatever. Okay. So let's look at the people that are left and see what I think about them. So Keith, he does have a little bit of a shot to win if he makes it, and he has demonstrated that he's actually surprisingly good at the challenges, but I don't want this guy to win because... even though he is a nice guy outside of this game, in this game, he's a nut. He hasn't really done anything right. He's gotten almost everyone that was close to them just thrown under the bus and just, yeah. And if he wins, I can finally, even though I really do not want to do this, state that we have a worst winner ever in the history of Survivor, because I cannot say that there's ever been a worst winner in the history of Survivor. I can say there has been least deserving winner, least likable winner, and worst jury decision ever, but it's a different person for all 3 of those. Okay? So if that guy wins, oh, yeah. talking about Missy. Now, well, given that she has this injury now, any credibility she has is pretty much gone. Honestly. And while she has, talked to everybody almost, and tried to keep them motivated, that's not going to be enough unless it's, Keith, Missy, Baylor final 3. But, I'm just not seeing really any potential for her to win unless it's that scenario, and even then, I have no clue how the jury's going to vote because that wouldn't be a good final 3, really. It wouldn't. And then Baylor, she's the person that everybody wants to see make it to day 39, but only because they want her to be roasted, or they want to roast her because... What's the deal? Well, I don't really have to explain Baylor's bit. She has ruffled people every which way. Josh no longer really likes her as a game player, and, yeah, now I personally feel like she's done more than her mother because she's been making her own decisions a lot more and has kind of had to fight, even though come merge, she really hasn't had to do that much because she just had to get John and Jacqueline to support her. But, yeah. So I would like her to get to day 39, but that's just so she can get a bit of a reality check. I don't hate her, but... yeah. But it is safe to say that I'd rather support her over her mother, although that's just mainly because Missy has lost all of her credibility due to the injury. Jacqueline, the John and Jacqueline thing really only works if there were twosome, honestly. I mean, that's not to say that Jacqueline isn't completely bad, because, I thought she was going to be bad, at the beginning of the game, when people were targeting her because they thought she was just a dumb person on the tribe, like Kelly was portrayed to be on Hunapu. But, that's not to say that she doesn't have some fight in her, but even if she makes it, she doesn't really have the greatest chance of winning. She has to hope that the jury, votes for her as a vote against everyone else, mainly, and she also has to get Natalie out of the game. And then Natalie, out of the people remaining, she has played the best strategic game, but she's in a bit of a tough spot, because her best shot of making it to the end is if she sticks with Missy and Baylor. But the problem is, even though she is guaranteed Final 4 because she still has her idol, and it can be played at the next tribal. Jeff didn't say that this was the last tribal the idol could be played at. If the fourth person, meaning not her, Missy, or Baylor, wins immunity, she's screwed, because Missy and Baylor aren't going to vote against each other. Now, that's not to say that she could potentially beat one of them in a file-making tiebreaker, because I would not be too surprised if she goes against Baylor in a file-making tiebreaker and Natalie wins, but yeah, she's in a bit of a tough spot. She has to hope that everything works out for her exactly. But if she makes it, she does have a nice shot of winning the game. Her only real opposition is, amazingly, Keith, if you ask me, but that's not to say that she doesn't have a lock on it. She actually needs to try. This isn't a case of where somebody has the best shot of winning the game by default, like the first Blood vs. Water, because I knew that if it was Tyson, Jervis, or Monica in the final 3, Tyson had it. But here it's a lot more tricky.